Hey, Rolling 20 fans, this is G, and I'm here to tell you today about a new sponsor for our show, Casey's Irish Pub. This is an honest-to-God Boston or Chicago-style Irish pub located in downtown Los Angeles. They serve cooked food, 11 kinds of beer, and 49 different Irish whiskeys from 3 different distilleries. Well, what does that mean? That means if you're looking for a good drink during a Los Angeles convention, you don't have to go far. If you're headed to Los Angeles for E3, Kamikaze, Anime Expo, the Los Angeles Car Show, or one of the hundreds of events happening near the Staples Center, then a good meal and a glass of Guinness is just a short walk away. Jeremy, the loud guy who won't shut up when we do our own podcast, he actually ate there during the last Anime Expo. And he said this. Forgive me if I don't sound like the guy. I went to Casey's Pub looking for a place to bring people for a good night of food and found it when I was driving people on my way back to the Los Angeles Convention Center. We went back and I had the best steak pot pie in my life down there. My wife had a good whiskey to sip, and 8 of us had fun talking and eating in a place that looked like it belonged in a movie. Casey's just a couple of blocks from the Westin Bonaventure. That means it's close to one of Anime Expo's own shuttle stops. We're even hosting a photo shoot there during the 2014 Anime Expo. If you want more details on that, email us at mspfreight@yahoo.com. Hey, so do yourself a favor. And don't stock up on bad beer and try to mix something sitting at the desk of your hotel room. Ride the elevator, get off at the Bonaventure, and walk to Casey's Irish Pub to get some drinks by their bartenders. Make some new memories and have some fun. We want to see you there.
Hello, everybody. This is Anthony, and be honest, on Mission Our podcast, and we have another episode of the Conover. If you're ever wondering why there wasn't one this past week, well, reasons. Anyways, with that, tonight joining me for this podcast is the one and only Christopher Sturm.
Yellow people.
And tonight he's joining me with me to talk about his time at Crocker Con. Which I mistakenly said another one, which was totally racist, and I didn't mean to. Unless I'm talking about the edible food. I'm not going to say it, but just for people who are just thinking of it. Anyways, so, Chris, this was a convention that happened in a day. Not only in a day, but within 4 hours. So, okay, I had no knowledge of this convention prior to you telling me, because when you first told me, like, I'm going to this convention, it's called Crocker Con. I'm gonna go cover it. It's like, oh, okay. I'm okay, sure, whatever. And explain to people who home, like, where was it and how exactly did you find out about it?
Okay, so first off, Crocker Con happens to take place at the Crocker Art Museum in downtown Sacramento. It is a once-a-year event. And to date, this is the second time that they've run it. So, I mean, mind you that this was a couple weeks ago, but
right.
Either way, so Crocker Con had run the Thursday after SAC Anime, and I mean, is just kind of, I don't know. I mean, weird's not the right word to use, just because I mean, there's nothing weird about it,
right.
But it just seems so different and completely out of place to have one convention right after another in the same exact area. And to kick it off, Crocker Con was 4 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about that is, like, usually when it comes to conventions, obviously they're, throughout the entire day. Like some who are just a day convention, like if it would, have usually a schedule of 10 to 5, 10 to 6. But for this event, for Crocker Con, it was only a span of 4 hours. Was it the case that they could only rent the place for so long, or was it that we're trying to fill in a spot for the event amongst other things that are happening during that weekend or during that day as well?
Well, a couple of things. One, for the Crocker Art Museum, I think that the idea came up as pretty interesting considering that, one, it being a museum, and two, the fact that comic books, anime, manga, anything along those lines are considered art in their own form. And so I figured, like, with the Crocker Art Museum, they figured, okay, it might be interesting to have a little event. We're over here at the museum, have people give people an opportunity to take a look at what the museum has to offer, and also provide a venue for fans of primarily comic books and Western animation. I mean, not to say that there weren't little bits available for people who are fans of anime, but that was definitely not the focus for this particular event. In fact, to expound on that a little further, the 501st Legion was there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, for those of you who might not know about the 501st, they are a very... they're almost considered royalty when it comes to all of the Star Wars cosplayers out there, and being considered a member of the 501st is an extremely, it's an honor, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is. I think that people who might have heard of him are most notably famous at Comic Con as well as Dragon Con. They have a huge presence in those two conventions considerably. But that's cool. That's awesome to hear they came out for the event.
Yeah, and not only that, but oh God, I'd say that there were at least a dozen members there, which was really surprising in its own right. There were a few different, there were two stormtroopers, then there were a series of the other troopers, the shock trooper, sand trooper, and then there were the Red Scouts, and a few other officers that were there, and it was just a really cool sight to see. But as for anything else over at the con, I think it should bear... It's important in context that the 4 hours that the convention was running were between the hours of 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So it's at that point where it's after the business hours, and in the courtyard that they had, as I'm sure that some of you may have seen through my pictures, that there was a little bar over there, and anything that was ordered before 6 o'clock they had really cheap drinks. Like, for example, Pabst Blue Ribbon PBR was $2.25, if I remember right.
Nice, okay. I could deal with that, yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty damn cheap for beer.
Oh, yeah.
Then again, PBR is, well, some have called it watered down piss, but
yeah,
that's beside the point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. During those 4 hours that you were there, what was the attendance like? Like, was compared to? I mean, obviously, it's not going to be as huge as other conventions, but just in general, like for the amount of time that it was happening, like, what was the general sense of like the amount of people that were there?
I mean, it's... I'd have to say it was probably somewhere between maybe 200 to at most 300 people. I mean, then again, there's only so much space that the museum has to offer anyway. So, I mean, I take that with a... I mean, like, it's weird for me to say that, like, oh yeah, it's such a small number, but at the same time, that's a really big number for a very small event and even smaller spacing. I mean, I would say it's weird to say that, SatCon and, the little small stuff that runs over at the Scottish Rite Centre.
Yeah.
That spatially, those are bigger, and of course they have a slightly higher attendance. But Crocker Con, for it only having its second run, with the fact that it is a very small and, for the most part, it was just disclosed on Facebook, which is where I found out about it, and everything like that. Sorry, my tongue got stuck for whatever reason. But anyway, I found out about it through Facebook, and I mean, for it to have that large of an attendance for that much of a short notice sort of thing, I was honestly very impressed with it.
Interesting. Yeah, 200, 300 people for a 4-hour event are really good for a convention like that. Now, I would imagine that there were some events that were planned up for those for that time period. What exactly was going on for that day?
So, the main focus of the events was, okay, we're going to have a cosplay contest, and I think that was at 6:30, 7 o'clock, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was at 7 o'clock. So they had a cosplay contest, which went by super quickly, considering that each contestant only had maybe like 10, 20 seconds out in front. They had a few DJs over there that were playing nerdcore music, and it was really cool to listen to. And last but not least, they had a band, but for the life of me, I unfortunately can't remember their name.
Right.
But
Okay.
those were the events that were performing in the new section of the museum. The old part of the museum wasn't really it wasn't used. Let's put it that way, with exception to the photo shoots that I was able to do for Mami Tomoe from Puella Magi Madoka.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, for the Super Frozen photo shoot with Rukia Hitachin cosplay as Elsa and Cassie Roll as Super Anna.
Yeah, I saw those pictures. They came out really good. I was kind of surprised that. I mean, I'm kind of surprised like the areas you were able to find within the building to take those photos were pretty sick.
And I gotta say, a lot of improvising.
Yeah, it's really cool. I totally dig it. Speaking of cosplay, I mean, I think of a general direction where you particularly like the most in terms of the cosplays. But out of the cosplays you saw during that time period, like anything that stood out to you, that was pretty cool.
Well, it would be in bad taste for me to say, oh yeah, it was the 501st, because, I mean, come on now. They had a fully authentic, like, movie-grade Darth Vader there. That's just not fair, so...
Right.
Outside of that territory, I happened to see a female version of Pan, the satyr,
Uh-huh.
which I thought she did a pretty cool job with. And unfortunately, I only got one picture of, just because the person who was in front of me, they kept moving their hands in front of my phone, so I couldn't get a whole lot of pictures there. But I liked what was done with that outfit. One of my personal favorites, outside of what was taken in the photo shoots, because I would be biased to say any good statements there.
Right.
I'm actually friends with those cosplayers, so
Full disclaimer.
so transparency in journalism here.
Yay.
And but no, my top two favorite costumes that I saw there were I think she was the first person to go up on the cosplay contest, where she was dressed as a phoenix, and at first I thought, I was like, oh hey, it's Hisui.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
yeah.
then afterwards I saw, like, wait, no, that's more just like a phoenix. And then, seeing the detail that was put into the wings, seeing just how everything was so finely articulated, and it comes off as both sexy while being conservative and still displaying a very, like, passionate sort of design. I mean, I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, it would only be fair for one, based off of his quality, and two, because of recent events. Steve Martinez, who has cosplayed as Captain Jack Sparrow.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, definitely. The costumes I saw that you took there were pretty sick. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think those. It was funny that Phoenix you're talking about. I took a picture of her at Fanime this past year because I saw that picture of her. I'm like, she looks very familiar. I look back, I was like, oh yeah, she was the one from Fanime. So her costume's really good. Man, I admire the detail in that costume. That is really really awesome.
I mean, for the detail that was put in there, it looks like, I mean, each one of the feathers was individually glued on. So, I mean, like, how can you not appreciate that?
Oh yeah, definitely agree.
But then not to cut you off, but in regards to Steve, like when he was on in the cosplay contest, like he actually had Jack's drunken, stroll on there. Like it looked like he was about to fall over, and oh my god, he put on a fantastic act when he was on. Well, I mean they weren't on stage, but when he was up in the contest, like I could have sworn that it was like, oh hey, it's Johnny Depp. But I do also want to give a shout out to him because as you might have seen on the Facebook page that I made a personal post about, that he recently got into a really bad car accident and he's going to need speech therapy, and of course, I mean, if he's going to need that, he's obviously going to need some other physical therapy as well. And I honestly hope that he gets well soon, and that his work is appreciated by cosplay enthusiasts and cosplayers such as myself. And I'm really bummed that I don't have the funds to personally chip into his hospitalization Indiegogo sort of thingy
Right.
that I posted on the page.
Right. Our hearts go out to him. Hope he has a speedy recovery. I hope all the good things happen to him pretty soon. Um, so, was there anything else going on during the convention as far as was the cosplay contest pretty much the only thing that people were there to attend aside from making friends and hanging out and doing photo shoots? But was there anything else that they had planned, or was that particularly that's it for the event?
No, far from it actually. So I'm not sure how well it really came out in the photos.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while since I've had the chance to actually go back and look at them again.
Mm-hmm.
But in that whole center courtyard of the Crocker Art Museum between the old and the new branches, they went ahead and set up like a miniature vendors hall.
Oh, cool.
And there were a lot of vendors that were selling old back issues of comics from Silver and Golden Age. There were a few artists that were there that were selling their prints, and I think one of them was actually selling canvas pieces, and they all looked really nice. There was a little section up where it's like, oh yeah, if you want to draw, then by all means, here's a huge pad, draw your hero, and there was never, there was not a kind of best phrase it. There was never not a crowd. Like, it was always occupied. And I never actually had a chance to take a picture of the thing itself to say, like, these are, the attendees' heroes, before eventually it was taken away because it was completely full.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, aside from the bar, which they were also serving Incredible Hulks, which I didn't get to try. But no, aside from the bar that they had there, they also had a little Jenga competition where one of the vendors, he had a little table set up complete with a couple couches and a couple chairs. And he's saying, okay, if you can beat me in Jenga, I will give you $10 in back issues at my shop, and then of course afterwards I figured, like, if you're probably a good sport, maybe chatted with him a while, he probably could have cut you a deal at the booth itself after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he was really nice about the whole thing, and it was just fun watching people play Jenga.
Right, definitely. That's cool. I like that. That's pretty awesome.
And last but not least, it's not really an attraction per se, but the museum itself was actually open during the course of this little miniature convention. The only thing that I think you couldn't access was the uppermost layer of the museum, but as it got around like 8, 9 o'clock, then the security guards were sort of like, you know what, for whoever's still here, they're not going to trash anything, and I had the opportunity to go up through the first and second floors of the museum. It was just really nice to take a few pictures of what I was able to snag over at the convention inside the museum itself, and just that whole portrait section I didn't have an opportunity to take a look at, but it was really nice to have a small little walk through the museum.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. It's good to hear. I'm very curious as far as like who came up with the idea of having the convention at the Crocker Art Museum. And I mean it's cool. It fits the fact that our museum. It fits with the artwork that it's particularly in cosplay and anime and comics and everything else. I'm just curious about who's the guy, who's the person who came up with the idea. So I remember you saying that there was a concert happening as well. Can you disclose some of that what that was all about?
Well, to be totally honest, I was in the middle of both of the Mommy and the Super Frozen photo shoots. So
okay, gotcha.
I only caught like the last 5-10 minutes of it.
Okay.
But from what I heard, it was different. I mean, it had sort of like a punk rock feel to it. But then again, I don't know if that was just for the song that they were playing or whatever. But I mean, they weren't bad.
Right, definitely,
So,
definitely.
I mean, at least there's that. But I do wish I had the opportunity to listen in on the concert and watch it from the balcony from the second floor.
Right, definitely. Okay. Um, in terms of, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, so was this a free event or did you have to pay to get in?
Well, for cosplayers, it was free to get in.
Uh,
For members of the museum, I think it was, trying to remember if it was $4 or $8. And then for non-members, it was either 5 or 10. I'm thinking it was probably the 8 and 10 dynamic.
Gotcha.
And then I don't know what prices students had because sometimes students have different discounts.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got in there, they gave you this little stamp, or not stamp, like a little sticker that you just put on yourself and saying like, okay, so I paid or I got in, and I just leaves it at that.
Cool. Well, how much was it to get in?
Like I said, I came in cosplay, so I got in for free,
Mm-hmm.
as did several other people.
Right.
I saw a little bit of everything. I saw, of course, cosplays from the Star Wars crowd, of course, 501st. Saw the Disney crowds, which, I mean, if we're including Marvel, because Marvel is now a Disney-owned property.
Yep.
That was the most popular that I saw over there for base demographics. I think I saw a couple Robins there as well.
Cool.
But I think it was probably 30 or 40% of the attendance was just in regular clothing, and for them, they probably paid just the regular $10 fee.
Okay.
Because not once did I overhear anyone saying that they love coming to the Crocker regularly. So
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, when it comes to 1-day conventions that may happen like once or twice a year, I think it's totally valid. I think the $10 is valid for what it is. I mean, if I were to say it was like any other convention out there or any other one-day convention, I'd be like, I don't know about that. But yeah, for what it is, I think it's worth it. I think the price is fine.
Honestly, I would consider paying more just
Ah,
because of how it's set up. Like, I mean, the whole event itself, it felt like it was directly catered to like this tongue tied.
nah.
So the way that I feel that they organized the event was that they figured, okay, we know that our demographic happens to largely be individuals between the ages of 18 to 34. So why not make an event that's best suited to them? It's in hours that best work with their schedule, since a lot of people normally have a 9 to 5 job anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working in Sacramento, then figure, okay, have it something to, relax with. If you're 21 and over, you have access to the bar, and at those prices, I mean, you really can't go wrong with that.
Right,
I mean,
definitely.
shoot, I think the most expensive I saw anything was, um, yeah, it was the Incredible Hulk drink that they had, and after their happy hour time frame, it was $8. But that's still cheaper than what you pay for a beer over at a bar.
Right, definitely,
I've
definitely.
I've had my few experiences over there where I would get a cold glass of beer and it would cost me $11 after the I don't want to be a dick tip.
Right, right, definitely, definitely, definitely.
So I mean, when it comes down to it, like they knew their demographic, they knew exactly who they were catering to. A lot of the stuff that they were capitalizing on, Gold and Silver Age comics, the fact that they had the Ghostbusters truck right out front, they
Mm-hmm.
had a DeLorean out front, which I'm pretty sure I have a picture of too. It's just that they know that their primary draw is going to be people between the ages of 18 to 34, people who know what Back to the Future is, people who've watched Ghostbusters when it came out in theaters, and they just knew exactly how to properly market it. They knew exactly what they were doing, and all in all, I was thoroughly impressed with everything that they did over there.
Nice, awesome. So it sounds like you had a pretty good time there then.
Yeah, and the only thing that I wish is that it went on for maybe just one more hour, bringing it up to 10, but at the same time, there's only so much that you can have in such a limited space.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that it happened to find that weird middle ground where it's just right, but it still feels like it has room for improvement.
Okay. Do you think that in future iterations of this convention that maybe they will open up mm, more of the building for the convention, or do you think that as time goes on, if it gets bigger and bigger, that they might consider doing it in another location? Uh,
Unlikely in both circumstances.
okay.
And the reason why is because it is known as Crocker Con. It is dedicated to the Crocker Art Museum. It has a very specific venue. There's only so much that can be done with it. At most, they can extend it to where the side street outside, that they might have a couple booths out there. But when it comes down to it, there's only so much that they can fit into that space. And, I mean, there's, maybe like one or two more vendors that could have been set up there.
Okay. Okay.
So, when it comes to that, no, I don't think that there's any room for change. And when it comes to opening up more of the museum, again, you're also considering that this is a group of comic book nerds, sci-fi nerds, people who, are just in love with that whole genre of media and entertainment. So while having the museum open was nice, only a handful of people, like such as myself, and maybe like two or three of my friends would have actually been interested in looking at the museum. The rest of us, well, the rest of the attendees, for better wording, would have been more interested in just hanging out with their friends, maybe doing a little bit of shopping. And one thing I forgot to mention is that they did have the Crocker Cafe open during the course of the little miniature convention. And they had some pretty cheap food over there, too. Like, I think Caesar salad was like $4 or $5.
How big was the portion? Just out of curiosity, because like sometimes like when you go to conventions where they have convention food, like sometimes the portion is not as equal as the amount of money you paid.
I'd say about Dixie brand paper plates dinner size.
Okay.
I mean, they're not skimping out on food, but at the same time, it's not like hometown buffet where they're, it's like, oh yeah, just
yeah.
only pay like $10.
Definitely. Okay. Interesting. So, overall, like, your thoughts on the whole convention? That's like, because like, do you think that from the last two conventions they've seen that this has turned out to be a success for them, and is it something that they'll probably will they proceed in the future for possibly even more dates for future conventions at Crocker Art Museum?
That I actually do see as a possibility. If they were to open it up to, let's say, because I mean, they only had it for that one bit earlier this month,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not really a whole lot else that's really done around this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they had another one, that was probably, in March, April, something like that.
Right.
That would work just fine. When it comes down to it, the only thing that they can do is schedule more, but then it runs the risk of oversaturation.
I see.
So, I mean, what I'm thinking is that they can do more to advertise it, which would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you have to know what the boundaries are for your own personal space. And if you have, let's just go with a crazy number, 1,000 attendees in that little space, which is, if I remember right, the actual legal limit for the Crocker Art Museum is no more than 600 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's only so much that can be done. Let's put it that way.
That's true. I do like the idea that this could be used kind of like a little gap filler in the meantime between conventions, because you're right, like at this time, majority of the major conventions have ended. At this time right now, I'm trying to think of future conventions coming up. Kamikaze in LA in November, Snafu Con in the next month, and then you got some East Coast conventions happening at the same time later down the road. But in terms of major conventions, majority of them have already happened. So this is definitely a good short day between all that to definitely throw a convention.
Mm. And like I said, for where it was situated, the time that it was run, for everything that they had available to them, I thought that Crocker Con did everything on point. It was the perfect convention for its spatial limitations and for what they set it up for.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris, for joining me on this podcast to talk about Crocker Con.
Oh, no problem.
Definitely. And before we end the show, Chris, where can they find you on the internet?
So you guys can find me on our regular podcasts here on Mission Start Podcast. I do have some plans on being more avid as a photographer with the website, and of course you're going to see more of my content for whatever cons I happen to be going to. So that's where you're going to see a majority of my content. For my personal stuff, you can find me at
Yes.
So over there, I post some of my cosplaying stuff, and just some more opinionated things.
Cool.
And whenever armor comes up, of course, I end up doing long-standing rants about those, about how we need practical armor for both sexes.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, that's detracting. And last but not least, for those of you who might remember from the last time that I was doing a podcast with the gang, I have a very special project in mind. It's almost all of the kinks have been worked out, and it's coming along nice and smoothly. We're just working on a few more things before we can actually make it public. So altogether, there's probably, maybe like another couple weeks, tops, before I go ahead and start getting uploads ready for that.
Right, definitely. Yes, you guys will see that special project pretty soon. And I'm gonna say that it looks pretty cool. Looks pretty awesome. Um, so I'm totally blanking out. Sorry. So if one follows.
You're doing the whole where can they find you thing
Yes,
for you.
yes. So for me, if you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Defective Naruto. You can follow me and the work that me and Chris do on the site at missionstarpodcast.com as well as its podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us on Stitcher and as well as iTunes. Just be sure to look up the Conover and you'll find us there. We have been kind of busy here and there on the site as late. But please do stay with us. We got some future stuff coming in the works for next coming months. And as far as convention season goes on, coverage-wise, the next convention that I will be attending, I'm going to see if I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to go to the Toys Logic Halloween one-day type of deal, kind of same thing as Crocker Con today, but more emphasis on the cosplay and convention aspect. So yeah, definitely, stay tuned for some more updates about that. But aside from that, I am, yeah. Anyway, aside from that,